Origin Chess, reaction, and this is Astra Militarum, Imperial Guards, Warhammer 40k by the channel Templin Institute. Yes, it's Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard, basically one of the most simplistic, basically army, right? Simplistic soldiers, but yet just because of the number, they are really unique in that way. I love how Bricky's video he explained whenever the Imperial Guard when they attack, they are like countless number that dwarfs the sky, I guess, dwarf the horizon, but just by the number. Their cannons basically shakes the very core of the planet and crust of the planet, like there is earthquake or something like that. That picture is stuck to my mind. Every time I think about Astra Militarum, I think about that, because they're just simple everyday soldiers. What's so great about them? Oh, I know, numbers. They are way too many, and they come with massive war equipments. It's just, yeah, if you have number, doesn't matter how simple you are threatening. Basically, that's what it is. So let's watch this one. Although, Warhammer 40k universe and Templin Institute is great. Templin Institute doesn't go as deep as Lutin, but, I guess it's fine, I guess. It's not some 10-minute small video. They make 20-30-minute videos, but they don't make an hour and 2-hour video like Lutin, so it's fine, I guess. This is why I like to react to Templin Institute first before going to Lutin. Because Lutin probably cover everything. And then if I react to Templin Institute, it's just weird. Like, I already know these things, that kind of thing. And Templin Institute has their way of explaining it. Like, there's some kind of organization who's a court organization who's explaining things, which is awesome. So let's watch it. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe, so I know which type of videos to react to more, I guess. Comment down if you want me to react to any specific video, whether it's Warhammer 40k or any. Even if I don't reply, I read all comments. So, eventually I'll react to it. Check out the cast of different playlists like Warhammer 40k reactions with all my Warhammer 40k videos in it. John Tron, Internet Historian, Kazakazan, Nutshell, Tierzu. Yeah, that's what it.
Attention Institute personnel. This investigation marks the release of Templin 2.0. To celebrate, anyone pledged to our Patreon page at $10 and above before November 30th will receive an exclusive and limited edition Operation Thundershark patch. There's been a ton of changes to the Templin Institute, so stick around after this episode for more details. The Emperor wills it, and you shall obey.
I like that. This channel basically covers everything like that. I saw some Doom videos and some other videos too. I think Fallout videos there too. I don't know. So it's not just Warhammer channel, but I like that they're also covering Warhammer universe.
In the grim darkness of the far future, the age of the Imperium is over. Across the universe, a death knell has sounded, for the time of ending has begun.
Wait a minute, are these multiple suns or to some of the gas stand and one is the sun? I don't know.
Tyrannid hive fleets move inexorably towards the guiding light of the Astronomicon. Orcs in the trillions gather around the banners of the warlord Ghazghul Thraka. Necron tombs, silent for millennia, now awaken, and a warp storm of unprecedented fury has torn the galaxy in two. The final prelude, it is whispered, to the ultimate victory of the ruinous powers. The fate of humanity rests with the myriad of forces at the Imperium's command. A single shot fired by the Officio Assassinorum can end a rebellion before it begins. The Collegia Titanica can grind entire worlds to powder. The Adepta Sororitas can cast the holy word of the Emperor to even the darkest corners of the galaxy. Wait
a minute, what about them? I'm reacting to that, text-to-speech device video. What about those nuns? They carry out Emperor's, I guess, thing, whatever, religious shit. I would love that if they get introduced in the future episode. I can't wait for that shit. I hope they do. But yeah, I love how, in the current time where, I guess, 40k universe, where everything is grim, Imperium is not at its best, and this is the time where the threat is at its highest. And I guess Imperial Guards are one of the most crucial thing against that. Because Imperial Guards are literally the main army of the Imperium. Because Space Marines are special Marines, I guess. Assassins are assassins, basically, who do covert mission here and there to stop major threats. And everybody has their place, but Imperial Guard are literally the main meat of the military.
But of all the armies to have ever raised their weapons and banners in the defense of mankind, there is one above all through which the destiny of the Imperium will be decided. Each day on 1,000,000 worlds, women and men, ordinary citizens of the Imperium, depart their homes, often never to return. They are sent to the front lines of wars beyond number and against eldritch creatures, immortal warriors, and the powers of hell itself, expected to hold the line. They are slaughtered in the ruins of once proud cities, in the depths of forgotten battlefields, and to the laughter of thirsting gods. But for 10,000 years, that line has held. For 10,000 years, one force in the galaxy has stood against the enemies of the Imperium and spoken to them in the language of fire. Each day on 1,000,000 worlds, women and men, ordinary citizens of the Imperium, depart their homes so they might fight for humanity as soldiers in the Astra Militarum.
Willingly or conscripts?
The scale and
both.
complexity of the Imperial Guard rivals that of the Imperium itself. It is the largest
I like how in this, Warhammer 40, there are massive tanks. Just like how there was a mouse tank that Hitler envisioned, but was not practical to put into production. I like how Hitler's idea is getting put into place in Warhammer 40k universe.
coordinated fighting force in
But
the
it
galaxy.
kind of feels like, somewhat similar. I'm not saying, the Imperium is like Nazi Hitler type of thing. It's not. But it's definitely a strong empire, let's just say. Strong-willed, I don't know. I guess, either believe in our emperor or die. So I guess in a way that's Nazi type of. So I like how there is similarities even in the equipment.
Serving as the first and often only line of defense against the innumerable powers that threaten the continued existence of mankind. While it is famous for the vast numbers of tanks, aircraft, and artillery under its command, at its core, it is comprised of countless billions of mortal soldiers, organized into hundreds of thousands of regiments. The recruitment of these regiments is among the most pivotal duties assigned to every imperial commander, planetary lord, or imperial governor. According to the law of the Imperium, every world under its authority must maintain a standing army to preserve the planetary government and deter any form of internal insurrection or foreign invasion. Each of these planetary defense forces exist as their own individual bodies, free to defend their own world and enforce their own standards as they see fit, provided they contribute a fraction of their number to serve the wider Imperium and join the Imperial Guard. The method by which these troops are recruited varies significantly from sector to sector and planet to planet. Defense forces of many worlds are little more than rival gangs, nomadic tribesmen, or condemned criminals, and selection for service within the Imperial Guard is often done under threat of some.
Okay, I like that prisoner element about this because StarCraft is basically inspired by Warhammer 40k, right? And I read to one of the trailers from StarCraft in which basically a prisoner who becomes like a space marine type of thing. And even in that trailer, I'm like, is this the same thing with the space marine from Warhammer 40k? I asked that. Apparently, that is the case in certain areas and certain places. The prisoners are basically recruited into, I guess, Astra Militarum type of thing. If some, prisoners are really good, they probably can become space marine too. I don't know.
Summary execution. Other planets might have well-established professional standing armies who view recruitment into the Imperial Guard as a noble, heroic pursuit. However the individuals and units selected to join the Imperial Guard are chosen, their quality reflects on that world's ruler. Should a regiment provided to the Imperial Guard be of insufficient quality, the life of even a planetary governor is immediately forfeit. For this reason, the soldiers selected for the Astra Militarum tend to be drawn from the elite troops of any planetary defense force. Even so, the composition and number of regiments drawn from each planet is wildly diverse. A highly industrialized hive world with 1 trillion imperial citizens might be required to provide hundreds of millions of soldiers, tens of millions of tanks, and other mechanized equipment. These would be supplemented by professional uniforms, munitions, replacement parts, and every manner of material required to outfit and sustain a force of that size. An agricultural or feudal world, by contrast, might have a significantly lower military tribute, providing as little as 1 million men and 100,000 cavalry. Such soldiers may lack even the most rudimentary equipment and possess little experience handling anything more complex than a windmill. This enormous disparity within the Imperial Guard makes any attempt at standardization impossible. Every regiment is equipped in the manner of their homeworld, and many such worlds have grown famous for the conduct of their soldiers.
Wait a minute, so Imperial Guards are not the same. Some of them could be really primitive and some of them could be really badass. I mean, there could be a massive gap between them. So you can't really compare Space Marines in the, Imperial Guard in that way. Because, every different world, would be a different type of, I guess, soldiers. So, to me, it's just like, even though some Imperial Guards would be better than other, it would be, I guess, in the same playing field. That's what my mentality was. But apparently, that's not the case. Imperial Guard is just, I guess, a category put on your common soldiers. Otherwise, it's way too much diverse to actually, compare things.
Prized by even the Adeptus Terra as the epitome of the Astra Militarum are the Cadian shock troops. The regiments of Cadia are equipped with the highest standards of gear available, and the martial culture of their homeworld has imbued every soldier with a natural affinity for life in military service. Cadia itself is but a memory, destroyed during the 13th Black Crusade of Abaddon the Despoiler, but that memory has served the Imperium as much in death as in life. Factory worlds across the galaxy produce equipment for the Imperial Guard to Cadian specifications, and countless regiments are trained and deployed in the fashion of their Cadian brethren. Equally legendary, if less ubiquitous, regiments are raised on worlds spanning the breadth of the Imperium. The Ice Warriors of Valhalla are said to be as inexorable as the winter itself, ruthless as the bitter frost, and as certain as death. They have acquired an infamous reputation for their thundering artillery barrages, combined with waves of charging infantry. Valhallans are the masters of Arctic warfare, viewed by outsiders as somehow impervious to harsh conditions or the value of human life. Fueled by the forges of their hive world and millennia of warfare are the regiments of the Armageddon Steel Legion. Highly mechanized and mobile, the Steel Legion has an unequaled number of tanks and armored personnel carriers in their service, and time again have charged across the wastelands of Armageddon, supported in the skies above by gunships and fighter aircraft.
I love how there are, basically on Earth, every country has different army, and every army has different type of uniforms. Clearly, this is an Imperium, so not just different countries, different planets, right? So the uniform shows the diversity of where they come from and what they represent. Basically, those, Valhallans would be really good at, winter conditions. And we know throughout history in our time, like how important winter has been, especially to the Russians, basically. Russians have, survived or even won wars because of the winter and their, I guess, strength in winter times, opposed to the, French and other people who basically, have to run away every time. Russians are unfazed by the winter somewhat. So that feels really similar to that. Like, in that kind of harsh condition, in extreme cold, they will be fine. And they don't care about human cost because that's their culture. So that makes them dangerous. While these people right here are more like, equipment type of, like, Imperial Guards, Mechanicus version or something. Where they rely mostly on equipment. They have tanks and shit, lots of equipment.
The Mordian Iron Guard are widely derided for their stiff and unforgiving demeanor, ridiculed as more troubled with maintaining their brightly colored uniforms and marching in perfect formation than the more pragmatic concerns of soldiery. Such discipline is an absolute necessity on their strictly rationed homeworld, however, and in battle, their iron resolve makes them cold-blooded killers. They will hold their ground at any cost, laying waste to the enemy with perfectly disciplined fire. The Desert Raiders of Talarn, by contrast, are unequaled within the Guard for their guerrilla tactics. Evasive and opportunistic, they have perfected the doctrine of hit-and-run warfare, harassing their opponents without mercy before disappearing into the dust kicked up by their rugged mounts. Every regiment in the Astra Militarum, regardless of their homeworld, possess some level of fatalism, but none can match the notoriously grim warriors of the Death Corps of Krieg. Once a prosperous hive world, Krieg today is an atomic wasteland, the result of a rebellion against the Imperium for which its soldiers must now atone. They are synonymous with their heavy greatcoats and sinister gas masks, rarely removing them even to eat or drink.
Okay, so was that part of the Horus Heresy or something, or it's the different time where they had betrayed the Imperium or something, now trying to make up for it? I guess I've heard about the, the Krieg, these people basically, in some other video. I guess they are pretty important in that sense. I don't know, the appeal of, a wasteland and people are walking around in masks like that is just great. So I'm pretty sure these are really famous one from the, Astra Militarum section of Warhammer.
They specialize in wars of attrition, where their willingness to die for the Emperor exceeds any other consideration. But in the minds of many across the Imperium, Catachan alone is a worthy successor to Cadia. It is a death world of unrelenting butchery, where every plant, animal, and insect are hostile to human life. Catachans have a well-deserved reputation as the deadliest jungle warfare experts in the galaxy, as even the bloodiest battle might be a favorable reprieve compared to life on their homeworld. Close combat is their particular specialty, along with extensive use of traps, mines, and improvised weaponry.
I see where this kind of thought is coming from. They took this from the Rambo, right? Sylvester Stallone's Rambo, when it first came, for the earlier movies at least, when he fought in jungle. The tone was that he's so good and so stable and so, concentrated that he knows this shit. He was bred for this. All his training that he received makes all this like a joke. That's what the feel was from the Rambo movies. So I guess they took that feel and put it into this one. Like, just living in their home world is so hostile that any other war just feels like a walk in the park for them. Because that's how rough conditions they live in. So this feels very Rambo-ish in that sense.
With no other resources, knowledge, or worth, regiments of jungle fighters are the sole export of Catachan and used to devastating effect. There are countless other regiments of renown within the Astra Militarum. The Vestroyan Firstborn, the Attilan Rough Riders, the Elysian Drop Troops, or the Tanith First and Only. But for every world or regiment honored for the heroism and dedication of its soldiers, 1,000 more remain unsung and forgotten, save by the Emperor himself. Regardless of their origin, every regiment is subordinate to the Lord Commander Militant. In theory,
are they going to talk about Pope now?
This individual passes on the dictates of the High Lords of Terra to the Lord Commander of each segmentum, who in turn hold authority and responsibility for vast swaths of the galaxy. In practice, the Lord Commander Militant is primarily a political position, more concerned with overseeing the bureaucracy of the Departamento Munitorum, and devoted to the general administration, personnel assignment, supply, and military logistics of the Imperial Guard, rather than any direct orders to its armies. In the rare instances in which centralized command has been imposed over far-flung Imperial regiments, the results are often disastrous. The unpredictable realities of faster-than-light travel mean that communiques and orders arrive years or decades after they were meant to, or in a single garbled transmission impossible to understand. Entire wars have been lost when dogmatic commanders have stubbornly implemented nonsensical orders.
What the fuck? In real world, around, basically before the modern age, communication halted for days, maybe months, sure. For fucking years like that? Come on, man. It's like somebody just sent out the message, retreat from the distance, and they're like, what should we do? I guess we have to wait for the message. Until then, let's push on. Every single one of them died, and then the message come, retreat. Like, really? Word? Retreat?
Orders to their subordinates. The practicalities of the galaxy and of command instead dictate that authority over the Imperial Guard falls to the officer of the highest rank in any given theater of war. While such a command
Automation.
structure is plagued by overlapping regions of authority, competing commanders issuing conflicting orders, and needless complexity, it is the only method by which the Astra Militarum can remain flexible enough to remain operationally effective. Individual commanders vary tremendously in their approach. Some command from miles behind the front lines, or from the relative safety of low orbit. Others are present where fighting is thickest, leading their soldiers through example. In other cases, Astra Militarum forces are subordinate to other branches of the Imperial military. It is not uncommon for Imperial Guard regiments to supplement the Space Marines of the Adeptus Astartes, the Scutari of the Adeptus Mechanicus, or any other force as required. In rare cases, such as during an Imperial crusade or an extraordinary threat to the entire Imperium, a commander within the Astra Militarum might be granted the title of War Master. This individual is second only to the Lord Commander Militant, and the supreme authority over every Imperial military force within their area of operations. There is rarely more than one War Master within the Imperium at any one time, and many who are granted it prefer to instead be known as a High Solar, rather than be associated with the very first Imperial War Master, the traitor Horus.
Okay,
The organizational structures of the Astra Militarum are defined by the ancient text known as the Tactica Imperium. Its knowledge stretches back into antiquity, and many of its teachings predate the rule of the Emperor, the Dark Age of technology, and the unification of ancient Terra. At its most basic tenets, the Tactica
Okay, I understand why people basically just, hate Horus, obviously. But I guess the sense that I got that, chaos basically corrupted them. It's not like they willingly opposed the Emperor. They just got corrupted by chaos, right? They didn't want to do that, but chaos got to them in their mind. I guess that's what the case is. Obviously, they're not going to see this way. Those people are basically worshipping the Emperor who doesn't want to be worshipped. So obviously they wouldn't think it that way. They would think like Horus, biggest evil, I guess Satan himself, to them at least. Oh, wait a minute.
Imperium groups squads together based on their specialization. Infantry platoons comprise infantry companies, which in turn make up infantry regiments. Tank, cavalry, artillery, and support regiments are structured in this same manner. Regiments together, therefore, complement each other's strengths and weaknesses, ensuring that the army as a whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Like every other facet of the Imperial Guard, the composition of its regiments again varies wildly. When facing the massed numbers of a Tyranid swarm or the hit-and-fade tactics of the Drukhari, the standardized methods of organization lose their effectiveness, and entire armies must be restructured to best combat these threats. More varied and versatile deployments are often favored by local commanders. Amongst the more exotic forces utilized by the Astra Militarum are the warp-sensitive psychers of Scholastica Psychana. Their value to the Imperial Guard outweighs the moral repugnance they evoke, unleashing warp-fueled devastation equal to an entire company of heavy guns. Less unusual, but still uncommon within the Imperial Guard, are the varieties of abhumans within the Militarum Auxilia. Millennia of mutations and extreme environmental conditions have shaped sub-races of hulking Ogrins and keen-eyed Ratlings, who have found great success as shock troopers and scouts respectively. A common saying is that the only true standardized piece of Imperial equipment issued to every regiment is a commissar. Such a thing would never be said within their presence, however, for it is the task of these political officers to maintain the morale and loyalty of their troops, doing so typically at gunpoint. A commissar has the authority to overrule even the commanding officer of a regiment, and can inspire their charges to accomplish what might have seemed impossible. Even the unassuming lasgun, the most widely used weapon of the Imperial Guard, exists in 1,000 models and variations. It can be constructed out of wood and plastic, metal and composites, emblazoned with golden sigils, or garish, improvised improvements. It can function as a sniper rifle or pistol, a lightweight weapon easier to handle and aim, or illegally modified to deliver more energy per shot. It can be built in advanced assembly lines or by hastily trained peasants. It functions even when covered in dust, mud, or drenched in water. Neither blazing heat or frigid cold impedes its effectiveness. It is simple and reliable, a perfect metaphor for the Imperial Guard. The modern Astra Militarum began as the Imperial Army. The force was first used by the Emperor of Man during the Wars of Unification on Earth, and later to support the advances of the Space Marine legions during the Great Crusade. During this time, the Imperial Army commanded land, air, and space assets, with no differentiation between the space-based and ground-based branches of the service.
What's with the Emperor's hand? Look at how gigantic they are.
The betrayal by War Master Horus and the subsequent civil war he unleashed forever tarnished the reputation of the Imperial Army. Unnumbered regiments joined the traitor legions, spreading death and corruption across the Imperium. When it was reformed as the Astra Militarum, all naval assets were stripped from its command and organized into the complementary Imperial Navy. With neither force able to mount a campaign without the support of the other, the threat of another large-scale rebellion was, in theory, removed.
Everybody relies on everybody.
In all the ages since, the Imperial Guard has remained the backbone of the Imperium's defense. Its forces have fought across every battlefield against every foe, enduring the stain of defeat and seizing the exultation of victory. Its greatest commanders have entered the highest pantheon of Imperial heroes, with names like Caiaphas Cain, Sly Marbo, Ibram Gaunt, Lord Solar Macarius, Sebastian Yarrick, and Usarkar Creed known across the entire galaxy. It is the name Olanius Pius, however, that is revered above all others. The extent of his deeds and whether such a man ever existed at all has been lost to antiquity. But, according to legend, at the height of the Horus heresy, as the Imperial Palace and all Terra burned beneath the might of the ruinous powers, a single man placed himself between the Emperor of Mankind and the arch-traitor Horus Lupercal, War Master and Chosen of the Four Gods of Chaos. Some accounts claim it was a Terminator of the Adeptus Astartes, or a warrior of the Legio Custodes, but every guardsman knows with certainty that he was nothing more than an ordinary man.
Oh god, this is such a great plot for an RPG action game, man. Because, when we play Elder Scrolls, who we are nobody, right? We are some prisoner who, I guess, do great things. This works so perfectly for a thing like that. Like, it's imagine it's like Elder Scrolls Skyrim or Elder Scrolls Morrowind type of game with that kind of lore and that kind of graphics and everything. About Warhammer 40k, and you play as that Astra Militarum one soldier. Basically, in the end, their end goal is basically, to stand between the Horus heresy or something.
Mortal soldier who faced down the greatest terror all reality had to offer and died standing. Alien tyrants, immortal intelligences, the dark gods, and the universe itself make mockery of human life. For against the terrible...
Okay, apparently this is just a Khan's demon. I reacted to Doomslayer versus, Space Marine video from Major Kill yesterday. I'm like, what the fuck, did he just kill Khan? But no, he's just one of the demons. I guess, Bricky just used, this guy's image every time he talked about Khan. I mean, it kind of makes sense since that's his army, his demons.
Foes of mankind, a single guardsman alone can do nothing. But a guardsman is never alone. They are deployed into battle alongside their fire teams, their squads and sections, their platoons, companies, and regiments. Their armies cover entire continents, entire worlds. Behind them roar the engines of battle tanks bearing the names of immortal heroes, formations of war machines of such scale and power that entire mountains might be ground to dust beneath their treads. Overhead, the skies are filled with gunships and attack craft, unleashing such fury that the sun itself is concealed behind the black smoke of rocket propellant. At night, entire horizons are lit with the fires of heavy guns, a declaration to the enemies of the Imperium that they have come here to die. But should every world fall, every fortress be overrun, and the gates of Terra defended by the last guardsmen in the Imperium, they will still not stand alone. The spirit of the Emperor is with all who fight in his name. And while no army is big enough to conquer the galaxy, faith alone can overturn the universe.
That's it.
As mentioned at the start of this investigation,
Yeah. So basically, obviously, Emperor does not like the religion and shit. But like people have mentioned that people believe in him so much that he might have become an actual god. Like how Eldar just basically willed slowness into existence. Or why can't all these humans basically will Emperor into a god basically? He was already powerful enough to be a god. Now he literally is a god. And he might have hated it at the first, but now since after becoming a god, you know, he might be fine with it. So maybe he is with every single, his spirit is every single, you know, Imperial Guard every time they go to war, I guess. I remember, you know, reacting to that Guardsman 2018, you know, fan-made film. That was awesome, right? You know, Emperor protects or something like that. Space Marine just suddenly appears. That was badass. And, you know, Emperor protects, something like that. That was so epic line. Maybe Emperor is with every single, you know, Imperial Guard. Who knows? Well, people, that was Astra Militarum, Imperial Guard, Warhammer 40,000 by the channel Template Institute. If you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe, so I know which type of videos to react to more, I guess. And by subscribing, you'll be supporting my channel. And you'll know when I upload next Warhammer video. It will be around this time. Check out the reaction I did. There's a link in the description. And check out the cast of playlists like Warhammer 40k, Cossack Nutshell, John, Internet Historian, History. And yeah, I'll see you next time.